Hey, welcome in, everybody. It is Orange and Blue today. Cecil Lammey with an Andrew Mason segment coming up. Mace and I guess will both be on assignment because by the time you're watching this, we're driving somewhere in Virginia, I think. We're on our way to West Virginia. We're on our way to be embedded reporters with the Denver Broncos for 4 days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll be with the Broncos as they are in Briarwood, something. Anyway, I'll be in West Virginia with the Broncos, and so will Mace. So, what kind of road trip will this be? Mace is going to come up and talk about the defense. Been certainly playing some outstanding football. But this West Virginia trip, this is something everybody's been talking about. Everybody's been looking forward to. And we'll see if they have shared moments. Certainly going to be more joyous than if they were coming off a beatdown from Tampa Bay. They're coming off a win from the Buccaneers game in week 3. Can they get it in week 4? And as I start my segment before I toss to Mace, I'm just going to play you guys some stuff about the West Virginia trip and what players think and what the coach thinks. And Sean Payton, here's Coach Payton last week talking about this trip to West Virginia.
The setup will be fine there, yeah. The facility and all of that will be fine. But it was more about, we looked at a handful of places. It was just going to be dependent on who the back-to-back teams were. I do like being away for a week with the team. In other words, when we travel to London or those are times that, you get a little bit better focus, I think, and you can grow as a team. So, each game will have different challenges. I just finished talking about the entirety of the travel, but the focus obviously starts with the first trip, and then we go from there.
They went from there. The focus was on the first trip. The focus was on that win, and they looked real good. It's not as easy as just repeating what you did in Tampa, a much tougher opponent, certainly in the New York Jets defensively. So offensively, they did it once. Can you do it again? Joe Lombardi talked about this West Virginia trip as well.
It's happened, we've had some experience going to London, and it's always that game before that you really have to keep your eye on. Because, you got to go home tonight, get packed, and there's a lot of extra details. And so it was something that Sean addressed early in the week. He made a big emphasis on it, so it's certainly been addressed.
Yeah, it's been addressed, and the Broncos are ready. Again, by the time you're watching this video, Mason and I are both in West Virginia, or we're on our way to West Virginia by the time this show fires live. We're going to try to check in with some live streams from the road, provided that the internet holds out and we can figure it out. So everyone stay tuned for that. We may be driving and driving and talking Broncos. But the West Virginia trip on the minds of the Broncos defense and some of the young guys. Like Jonah Ellis talked about it last week.
Sean's really excited about it. He thinks we need it. It's kind of he's like, he doesn't think this will make or break our season, but he does think that this is like a really good opportunity for us to really take that step and get a win.
Yeah, take the step, get a win, and it's not going to make or break their season, but it's one of those bonding things, like them against the world. No one still believes in them. They beat the Buccaneers, and now the kind of national conversation is, well, Tampa Bay overlooked them. Okay, or are the Broncos just the better team? West Virginia trip on the mind of Nick Benito. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, just more opportunities for us to hang out with each other, just be together, get away from everything, and come together and practice together on the road. So.
Yeah, come together, practice together. I think I'm going to start singing the Beatles. And right next to him is Riley Moss, who also talked about this West Virginia trip.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good. I think we need it. It'll be good to kind of build that identity, and be around the guys.
Build the identity. That's something that has been discussed locally on Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan, so we'll keep discussing it here as well. So, Mace, you're up, buddy. Time to talk to Andrew Mason. He's going to talk some Broncos defense, including a great game from Dondrea Tillman. Off to you, Mace.
Thanks, Cease. There's something big going on in the Denver Broncos pass rush. Of course, 7 sacks in Sunday's win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the Broncos, and now sitting with 11 sacks through 3 games That's the most for a Denver Broncos team at this point in the season in 8 years. The Broncos used to be known for their pass rush. That's really what defined them through the 2010s. And even though they kept investing in it, drafting Bradley Chubb in 2018, for example, it did not come to fruition in a way that we're seeing right now. Sunday, of course, the big star was Dondrea Tillman, who had 2 sacks in his NFL debut coming out of the United Football League. But overall, the Broncos had 7 sacks, and you had 6 different players recording at least 1 sack so far this season. Some of it on Sunday, that explosion was because the Broncos got ahead and worked from there. But some of it was also because the Broncos, as Dondrea Tillman pointed out, thought that they could get to Baker Mayfield.
All week we were just making sure that we hunt the quarterback. We knew he was going to hold it, and we knew he was going to try to escape. But we all knew that we just had to rush together, and we'd eventually get there.
Knew he was going to hold it. The thing is, Baker Mayfield, we talked about this last week, he'll extend plays, but that also gives you more chances to get to him. And as the game went on, he was trying to wait for late opening receivers downfield who generally didn't get open because of the coverage on the back end. That led to some sacks. It was the classic rush and cover equation for the Denver Broncos in week 3 against the Buccaneers. But it's happening over the course of the season. There were some numbers that I dove into recently, looking at where things stood in terms of pressure rate, hit rate, based on the data compiled by Pro Football Focus. We'll start with we're going to start with the pressure rate first of all, and looking at Jonathan Cooper working at edge rusher. Pressure rate right now, heading into Monday night's play, he ranked 15th among the 82 edge rushers with at least 40 pass rush opportunities in pressure rate, getting pressure once every 5.6 pass rush opportunities. And when it came to the hit rate, even higher. He's getting a hit on a quarterback once every 8.1 opportunities. That ranks him 9th among that class of 82 edge rushers who have at least 40 pass rush opportunities heading into Monday night. This is why I said on Sunday, you may want to start drawing up some contract terms for Jonathan Cooper. What we're seeing is that even without an alpha on the opposite edge, he's able to make plays. He's able to capitalize. He has 3 sacks through 3 games. Of course, he led the Broncos in sacks last year, playing on Sunday without Baron Browning opposite him. Baron Browning may well be in an interesting spot, by the way, coming right now when we're talking about him being on injured reserve with that foot injury he suffered against the Steelers. The Broncos had 7 sacks against Tampa Bay without Baron Browning. Nick Bonito got to Baker Mayfield. Jonathan Cooper got to Baker Mayfield. Dondrea Tillman got to Baker Mayfield twice. Jonah Ellis didn't get to Baker Mayfield, but he did get a sack last week against Justin Fields. So you're seeing the edge productivity ramp up. It's possible that if you see this continued form in future games, if it carries over beyond the Tampa Bay game, is there going to be a place for Baron Browning in the rotation? Is the train going to leave the station without him? We've talked a little bit on this show about the notion that Baron Browning and Jonathan Cooper could be 2 players battling for 1 contract. They're both in the final year of their rookie deals. And there's no doubt that Baron Browning has quite a bit of athleticism. He's got a great bend, but the injuries that he's had year after year work against him. And as we see with Jonathan Cooper, he just is steady and gets results. You know that he can be a plus player against the run. I don't expect he's going to keep up his sack a game pace. Let me make that clear. But if we're looking at the end of the season and seeing Jonathan Cooper with 10 to 12 sacks, folks, that's going to put him into a higher bracket. Do you think that he's going to get that kind of total? And if so, do you want him back? This may be the time for the Broncos to try to get in on re-signing Jonathan Cooper to make sure they've got a veteran mid-career player and a leader in the locker room around for the future before he gets more expensive. The Broncos, of course, they've already made deals with Quinn Miners, who bounced back really nicely on Sunday, albeit against a weakened Tampa Bay defensive line. They got that deal done with Pat Surtain, who has been mostly marvelous so far this season and probably had his best game of the season so far in week 3 in Tampa against the Buccaneers, covering Mike Evans mostly. So it's not that George Paton and Sean Payton aren't willing to get deals done. It may be time to get a deal done with Jonathan Cooper. But the star in the front seven is Zach Allen. Doing a little number crunching on him, his pressure rate among 83 defensive interior players with at least 35 pass rush snaps so far this year, according to Pro Football Focus, his pressure rate, one pressure every 4.79 pass rush snaps. That, folks, is number 1 in the league heading into Monday night, ahead of all sorts of great players. His hit rate, the rate at which he hits or sacks the opposing quarterback, he's 5th overall. He's getting to the quarterback and getting contact on him once every 8.14 pass rush snaps. Zach Allen has made the leap. He's gone to the next level so far this season, talking about 18 total pressures among interior defensive linemen. That leads the NFL. And yes, that'll open some things up for Jonathan Cooper, who's shown he's good enough to take advantage, and it opens up things for other players who rotate in. And on Sunday, in Tampa's heat and humidity, the star of the rotation was Dondrea Tillman with 2 sacks as he made his NFL debut. Of course, earlier this year, playing for the Birmingham Stallions of the United Football League. Had a good season for them as they won the UFL championship. It wasn't his first go-around in that spring circuit. He played for the Stallions when it was still called the USFL, the revived United States Football League, before it merged with the XFL to come together as the UFL. And this is a guy who he's basically been playing football since for all but about 3 or 4 weeks between OTAs and training camp. He's been playing football going back to January, but he didn't seem tired at all. And if anything, he seemed energized as he continued his really long marathon season.
The more reps you get, the better you're going to be able to play. It doesn't matter where you play, as long as you're getting live reps, they eventually add up. So I think playing in that league definitely helped me out and helped me develop to get here and be ready for my shot when my time is coming.
We've talked about how we need a minor league. The NFL needs a true minor league. Yes, there's college football. I get that. College football is its own entity. It's a different sport. Some players are late bloomers. I mean, in minor league baseball, you could go on through the minor leagues until you're 25, 26 years old before you get your major league shot. It just takes some players time. Football doesn't really offer that. You've got the UFL, which is, of course, was sprung out of the USFL and XFL coming together, but you don't have these opportunities for late blossoming players to develop in a formal way. So you have to rely on this sort of thing. He has a good season in the UFL. He gets on the Broncos' radar and he gets a tryout. And Dondrea Tillman, as he told me on Sunday, thought when he went through that tryout that it went pretty well.
Yeah, I felt good. I felt good at the tryout. I was moving pretty well. Even though it was 2 days after our season, I felt pretty good about it, and I was excited.
Felt pretty good, and then he probably felt even better when he started getting feedback from teammates as well, because asking a few guys around the locker room about what Dondrea Tillman looked like when he first came in, those guys all saw something in him right away. Jonathan Cooper, who's worked with Dondrea Tillman a lot since he got here. I mean, Cooper's kind of a de facto coach on top of everything else that he brings on the field. Talked about what he saw right away when he was watching Dondrea Tillman in his first practices as a Denver Bronco.
My initial thoughts was he's got really good hands. He's got really good hands, and he can rush the passer, and that he knows football. And you could just tell, like, with that experience, you can't beat that. You know, other guys come in, they ain't played a lot of football or played enough football at that high level. He's played football at a high level, so he knew how it was going to be out here, and I couldn't be happier for him. Couldn't be more proud of him. We knew what type of player he was. That's why he's active today, and you know he's only going to get better.
Only going to get better. That's a real good sign going forward. The Broncos, maybe they were a little concerned about their edge rushing depth when they had to put Baron Browning on IR. But Dondrea Tillman looks like he's going to be a pretty nice addition to that rotation. So you look now, you have Nick Bonito with a solid game on Sunday. He also had a sack. He's looking more stout against the run. Talked to me last week about that. Say he's put on some weight. That's helped him out in that department. And then Jonah Ellis and Dondrea Tillman rotating in behind Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito. We talked about how the unit didn't have an alpha. A, maybe it didn't need to have an alpha, but B, is an alpha actually emerging in Jonathan Cooper with 3 sacks in 3 games? I mean, perhaps the real thunder in the pass rush in the front 7 is coming from the interior in Zach Allen. He's the havoc wreaker that may start drawing some more double teams. But if you've got that, you need someone on the edge who's good enough to take advantage and make plays in one-on-ones. That's looking more and more like it's Jonathan Cooper, who here in year 4, after being a 7th-round pick, he's blossoming. Dondrea Tillman is showing potential. Nick Bonito looks much more settled starting than he did last year. And Jonah Ellis had a solid game in week 2, and I think he's going to keep on developing. It's a pretty good situation for the Broncos to be in at a spot that I think had a lot of question marks a month ago, but those question marks are starting to be answered. Back to you, Cease.
All right. Well, thanks, Mace. That is a wrap for today's edition of Orange and Blue Today. Again, make sure to stay tuned to our YouTube channel and like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid, because we are going to try to bring you some live shows from the road right here on YouTube, exclusive to YouTube. So make sure to check us out on YouTube and give us the thumbs up. Really subscribe to us. We're trying to grow our YouTube channel. I essentially run the YouTube channel for Denver Sports, so it's on me to grow this channel. So please help us, all of us, and me. Please help me about growing the channel. That means subscribing. About 48% of you that watch don't subscribe. So come on, join us. We're Denver Sports. We're 104.3 The Fan. We're Orange and Blue Today. For Andrew Mason, I'm Cecil Lammey saying thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay